This 2025 rookie running back class for Dynasty Fantasy Football is looking good. It's looking very good from top to the bottom. We got a top tier player. We got some very good players on the top end. And it looks like we're going to get some good running backs in the later rounds where you can really speculate in the latter part of your rookie drafts. What we're going to do is what we did last year is we're going to take somebody's rankings, PFFs this time. We're going to take their top 5. We're going to put them into tiers. We're going to talk ball around those players. And then every week, we're going to add in a couple random running backs into the mix. And we're just going to keep talking about these running backs, researching these running backs, finding new things about these running backs. And things are going to shift. Things are going to change. But that's what we did last year. And I thought that was a good process, a good practice to look at. So as you guys talk about them in the comments, running backs you like that weren't mentioned, running backs that you wish you could get more information on, bring those up in the comments below. On top of that, I'm going to be watching Twitter and everywhere else. So if there's a running back everyone's talking about, I'll bring that running back into the mix to talk about. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now, because we're talking about these rookies every day. We're looking at the values at Dynasty Fantasy Football every day. We're looking at prospects at college football so we can get a good idea of the future so we can adapt when it comes to the market and everything else. Click that button. Stop missing out. We're going to talk about our first running back. I don't think it's going to be a surprise, but talking about him is a big deal because a lot of people have some questions on him. A lot of people are wondering how high to actually value him, and that's Ashton Jeanty. When I look at Ashton Jeanty for Dynasty Fantasy Football, there's some things to look at here, and one thing is the perceived market value. And when I put guys in the tiers, when I put guys in the rankings, that is one thing I look at. Because I could be in a number of rookie drafts and maybe I get overweight on a player and I want to know if I could sell him easily or not and get an okay return. Or if I draft this player and I'm kind of like stuck with him because the market sentiment's not really there. It's rather high for Ashton Jeanty, so you got to vulture him up there. The talent's there. He's got good wiggle, good contact balance, good in the open field. He's good at creating space. And you're looking at him very productive. We all know this at Boise State. The big question mark was the competition at Boise State. But honestly, with the competition he was going up against and all his opportunities, he maxed it out. I mean, you can't get much better than 2,600 yards, 29 touchdowns. Year prior, 1,300 yards, 14 touchdowns. I understand if he was like a one-year dandy, this was his only year of like big-time productivity. But he was productive last year. This year, 5.25 yards after contact per attempt. That's elite. That's top tier. Almost 2,000 yards after contact this year. More than a lot of running backs. More than a lot of running backs. There's a good chance he gets drafted in the first round. It's been a while since we've had a running back drafted in the first round. Where he goes, it's going to be very important. But on top of that, with his draft capital that's projected, his name cachet, he's going to be getting work early in his career. He's not going to be riding the pine. You're not going to be waiting for Ashton Jeanty to get his opportunity. And even if he is, the market sentiment's so high that you can hold on to him. And if there's something you don't like the team does something you don't like, or if through trading you end up with like 5 more shares than what you wanted or something like that, you can make some flips to your portfolio. You can move things around. That's what I like about Ashton Jeanty. He can get work in the passing game, 43 catches in 2023. All around, good running back, good potential here. And I don't think anybody's really arguing that outside the competition, outside of there should be other running backs in his area when it comes to talent and everything else. That makes sense when you look at this draft class. But when you look at everything together, Dynasty, fantasy football scenario, market sentiment, potential draft capital, which I think right now to speculate on that is very good that he's going to be first running back selected and getting damn good draft capital. First round at the lowest, high end second round, higher than Jonathan Brooks for sure. So for sure I'm going to put him in S tier right now, and I really don't see him moving unless something dramatic happens that I can't predict, that I don't know about, that nobody knows about, that just comes out maybe during the combine or something. But I just don't see him moving. It's hard to project that going forward. But we got to move on to our next running back that we're talking about today. And I like him a lot. If I had him in the 2024 class, I think he'd be the number one running back, hands down. I think it'd be very easy. When you look at the production, you look at his body of work, what he did on the field, you just look at highlights, not even the tape, just the highlights. And you look at everything together with the numbers and everything. You got a damn good running back, Omarion Hampton. Look at the production here. 1,600 yards, 1,500 yards last 2 seasons, 30 touchdowns together in the last 2 seasons. We're getting work in the passing game. Looking at what PFF has on size, 6'1", 220. I'm waiting for the combine, but when I look at the tape, it's good. It's good. I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm happy with what I'm seeing in the open field, what I'm seeing at contact. That's all I'm looking at. I don't really care about the numbers because Thanksgiving dinner, it's going to change. It's going to change. 4.35 yards after contact per attempt, 4.22 the year prior, 67 missed tackles forced each in the last 2 seasons. The number's there. The number's there. And we got some pop behind those pads. We can catch the ball in the backfield. 38 catches this year, 29 the year prior. Good work in the passing game there. When you're looking at that, you see that on tape as well. The tape's not going to lie. Over 1,000 yards after contact the last 2 seasons. This guy's a hammer. And when I look at the market sentiment, it's pretty high up there. A lot of people like Omarion Hampton. Some people have him as the RB1 in the class because he did go up against ACC competition. He did have some big moments, and that makes sense. Objectively, I understand. The market sentiment's high. He's going to be high up there in Dynasty rankings. He'll be low in the beginning and then get vaulted as we get closer to when he's getting ready to play for his NFL team. I don't look for him sitting and waiting long. I look for him getting some opportunity in 2025. I look for him to getting some opportunity and then working his way to being fantasy relevant, and that could be sooner than later. I look for him getting a shot to be fantasy relevant soon. And I look for him to be a good asset for Dynasty Fantasy Football. I look at him as an asset that's going to hold his value for a good clip. Looking at the stats and metrics, they check out right here. Yards after contact, balls caught. We got 2 years of good productivity. We're not hanging around college as like a 24-year-old beating up on 18-year-olds. We're not doing that. Everything's looking good. Everything's checking out. The draft capital, from what I'm seeing from mock drafts, even though I don't trust them as much yet or at all ever, it's looking good. It's looking good. Everything's looking solid with Omarion Hampton. I like him a lot. I also like the value too when I'm looking at him in rookie drafts because he's a little bit cheaper. A little bit cheaper, more in my range. It's not like I sucked so bad that I got the 101 to get a Jeanty in a lot of my leagues. And it's not like you can additionally trade for that right now or like months ago. Maybe I could have fell into that in some of my leagues, like years back trading. That happens. But again, a guy like Omarion Hampton, price-wise in rookie drafts, a lot of us are going to be looking at him. A lot of us are. When I look at him at value right now, I look at him in like A tier. I look at him there. I look at him up there. If I had him in last year's draft, it'd be the RB1 easy. So think of it like that. I think the tiers, when you look at them this year versus last year, vastly different. Vastly. The top's more valuable. The top's less sketchy. That's what I'm seeing. But I also got more to say about the top of those tiers, S and A, here in a few minutes. But we got to talk about another running back because that's going to be the preamble to that. So you got to hold on tight for that. I got more to say about S and A tier right now, but I really want to talk about Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson. And the thing is, when I look at guys talking about this rookie draft class, you got to be very wary of that. Somebody was talking about, hey, he's not getting work in the passing game. Can't be a full-time back. Doesn't have the potential for that. But when you look at the targets over there at Iowa, 4th on the team. The guy with the most targets had like 40-some. So when you're looking at that, Caleb Johnson, and you're looking at his yards after the catch per reception at 11.5, those are some good numbers there. There's some good indicators there. And yards after contact, 4.42. So that lets me know if I'm catching it in the flattened space, I got potential to scoop, to get you those yards, to rack up some volume. Sometimes this is system. Sometimes it's quarterback. You might be mixed in with a quarterback that don't look at the running backs that often. Maybe 15% of their drop backs, their passes go to running backs, where it's like a Baker Mayfield, where over the course of his career with every team, it's 20+%. So you got to look at that. You got to be looking at running backs that have the potential to be on the field a lot. He has that potential. As a freshman, 779 yards, 5.2 yards per carry, 3.34 yards after contact per attempt. He was looking good. He was looking damn good. This year, 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns at Iowa. This guy's a force. This guy has a lot of upside. And he's got some indicators in the passing game too. And he racked it and increased that to 22 receptions this year. And like I said, the top receiver on this team, 40-some targets, if I remember right, 47. And he had 24 targets per PFF. That being said, fourth on the team, like I said earlier. 66 missed tackles forced. I like his size. I like his wiggle. I like him in the open field. And I like that he's a little bit cheaper in rookie drafts. I think I'm going to have a lot of Caleb Johnson due to that. It's not like I'm going to be at the tippy top in a lot of these leagues. You're looking at a guy that competes. If I'm competing, Ashton Jeanty's not really a thing for me in a lot of leagues. I have to trade to get there. I got to trade to get there in a lot of leagues. Unless it's one of those leagues I'm messing around with, rebuilding, retooling, or something like that. But a lot of my leagues, Caleb Johnson's a guy I'm looking at. And a lot of you guys watching this, you're like, Ashton Jeanty, yeah, I have him at RB1, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me because I can't get him. I'm in 3 Dynasty leagues, and you know what? Middle of the road, almost won my league. A guy like Caleb Johnson, I can trade up to get. It's more functional to look at him if I like him because I have the capital to make that happen. And that makes sense for a guy like that. For me, I'm in a lot of leagues. I'm going to spread around my portfolio. There is going to be times where I can get an Ashton Jeanty, but really, for the average Dynasty gamer, guys like Omarion Hampton, guys like Caleb Johnson are more feasible. And when I think about that, those are damn good running backs. And if I put them in last year's class, smoking them. Definitely smoking a Trey Benson, both those two running backs. The other guy had a torn ACL. A lot of people play Monday night quarterback with that. So we're just going to leave Jonathan Brooks alone, let him sit, let him recover. But again, you look at a guy like Caleb Johnson, you look at the potential here, looking damn good. Looking damn good. And the thing about this, I got him in A tier. But when I look at these tiers for S and A, B, I have them much more valued compared to last year. Last year was iffy at that top tier. I don't even know if I had an S tier. I just knew I was putting 3 or 4 running backs in it and just scooting them around a lot. When I really think about these running backs and I take away the market sentiment and I take away that and I look at their potential and what they can do on the field, Caleb Johnson, Omarion Hampton, and Ashton Jeanty, I think if you have them in any draft class, the top tier, stud tier, top tier, whatever. When you take away market sentiment, when you put that in, I kind of put them down a little bit, but when you put them together, you could have those 3 backs in the top tier. It makes a lot of sense, and just shift everything up a tier. That makes sense. So I kind of got the rankings in 2 different orders and how you want to look at things, because that makes sense to me because I like to play in the market, but also when I look at the backs, I look at the talent, I look at opportunity, I look at the competition they win against, potential draft capital, potential landing spots. There's a chance that one of those 3 running backs is going to supersede the other when it comes to fantasy production. I like all 3 of these guys. I think they all have good potential, but we're moving on. Running back number 4 off the list here, not my list, but we're putting them into tiers off of PFF. Quinshon Judkins. This is what I like about him, is he went to Ole Miss as a freshman, 1,500 yards, 16 touchdowns. That's what he did. As a freshman in the SEC, everybody wants to vote up the SEC. I don't care. He came in as a freshman. Zach Evans was there, which is a good gatekeeper running back. Look at depth charts, whether it's NFL and college. Look at that gatekeeper. Look who's that gatekeeper on that roster. And look at that as like the final boss. If you can get past Zach Evans on your college team and become the productive guy, you just surpassed a good running back prospect at the college level, not great at the NFL level, and you killed it. 16 touchdowns, 1,500 yards. Came back the next year with 15 touchdowns. Solid. Over 3 yards after contact per attempt every single year. 3.38 is best as a freshman. We come over to Ohio State. We're sharing the backfield. And a lot of people just look at the numbers. A lot of people look at that. You look at the tape. Grinding it good between the tackles. Getting some opportunity. 5.3 yards per carry. A little bit lighter than what you like at the college level. But again, 3.02 yards after contact per attempt. Sharing the work out of the backfield. We're getting okay work in the passing game. 22 receptions in 2023, which is fine, especially at Ole Miss. They're usually log-jammed at wide receiver. He's sharing the workload. That being said, Quinshon Judkins has some goods to his game. He can reel off long runs. We got an 86-yarder to his name in 2024. We got a lot of opportunity here with Judkins. What I like about Judkins is he's proven to handle a large workload, 274 carries. The thing is, with him sharing workload here in 2024 with Treveyon Henderson, one, this makes him a little bit cheaper in Dynasty. Two, a little bit less workload in that final year. So when we go to the NFL, a little bit less tread on the tires. That's one thing you can say about Judkins. That is one thing you can say about him. When I think about him, when I'm putting him in tiers with these running backs, going with the original tier list, I put him in B tier. I'll just have him in there just chilling. And I think B tier is up there with the top running backs in last year's draft. I'd have him over Trey Benson easy. We're setting Jonathan Brooks to the side due to Monday night quarterback feelings, biases due to the double ACL injuries and him coming in with an ACL injury. Quinshon Judkins, though, when you talk about Jonathan Brooks and Judkins during his 2 years at Ole Miss, you would definitely take Judkins over that. You would definitely take that over that. I think Judkins is a running back that would be RB1 in last year's class. Pretty easy. But we're moving on to our final running back here of the rankings here. These are from PFF. We're just putting them in 2 tiers and just talking ball on them. So really, I don't have them at 5. They got him at 5, and it's Treveyon Henderson. And what I like about him is that there's a chance he could be the most productive running back in this class from a fantasy football standpoint. In the right situation, if you get it to a running back that tosses it about 20+% of the time to the running backs, and he's out there because he's damn explosive with the ball in his hands. He's damn explosive with the ball in his hands. 23 catches, 27 as a freshman. That freshman year, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. We had a lot of injuries in the middle of that. And this year, sharing the workload, 831 yards, 8 touchdowns. We got some work. We got to show off what we can do. And we're not getting a lot of wear and tear on our tires this year. So we're going to go into the NFL pretty fresh. And we are established that we're back from those injuries. 4.17 yards after contact per attempt. A lot of people have Henderson ahead of Judkins. I'm fine with that if you have that. I am not a person that gets like into the rankings and I'm a merchant about it. I'm not a rankings merchant. I'm very objective because honestly, if you always look at things as black and white, you're going to be wrong a lot of times. But if you're fluid and you're objective, you're always going to be learning. And if I'm in a spot where I'm on camera, I should always be learning and just sharing. So you can just make your rankings, honestly. That's what it is. And if I just have tiers and I'm fluid, it's just going to help you with your ideas, honestly. Because if everything's black and white, and we know how this game is, and we know the percentages for the top sports bettors in America, you're considered elite if you're right 60 to like 62% of the time, then what are we doing? What are we really doing when we think about that? That's not very subjective. That's not smart. That's not really helping people because you're going to go in cold runs. When it comes to rookie drafts, you're going to go on hot runs. I've been on some hot runs for multiple years and have had some cold runs here and there. But when I look at Treveyon Henderson, I look at a lot of potential here. I see this guy's very explosive. This guy in the right situation, when I mean right situation, he could be a league winner for you. And when I think about him, and I think about him versus Trey Benson. Trey Benson in college only had 2 years of over 900 yards rushing. He went to Oregon, had to transfer. 1,200 yards off the rip. 15 touchdowns. Healthy. Injured in the middle of all that. 18 games the next 2 seasons. Then this year, 831 yards, 23 catches, 189 yards. When he gets the ball in space, he's nuclear. And he's going to get good draft capital. And I look for him to go to a team that wants to be explosive, that shares the backfield. And one thing I've heard people say about this running back class is that there's no grinders that's going to really soak up all the carries and workload. The NFL's not that anyways right now. It's 2 running back systems, sometimes 3, sharing the workload. The NFL showed their hands. In a 2-system backfield, this is a running back that if he's getting 10 to 12 opportunities in a game, he has the chance to crack one open, maybe 2 or 3. And he also has the potential to do a lot more. That being said, when I look at Treveyon Henderson, I look at the value. I like him a lot. When I throw him into tiers, I think you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put him in that Quinshon Judkins category, but that category is rather high compared to last year's rookie draft class. I think we've got a lot of upside. If you're looking at those tiers that I mentioned after that with 3 running backs in the S tier, top tier, whatever you want to call that, they're right below it. They're right below it. But when I look at these tiers right now, the value, the talent is up there. It's immense. And I would take any of these running backs on my Dynasty teams. Any of them right now. Quick and in a heartbeat. And I think when we look at this rookie draft class at the running back position, I am hammering the running back position and everybody else doing the same thing. But the thing is, what I've taught these last few years is when a draft class is very strong at a particular position, just lean into that strength, pluck those players, and then look at the next year's class. Do the same thing. Just go back and forth with it, but be Bayesian when it comes to ADP and the values. Of course, take those values when they come to you, especially at the running back position, wide receiver position. Take those. The wide receiver position is going to be a little bit weaker, but you're going to catch some values due to that, due to the market sentiment. So that's something to pay attention to as well. We're going to do the same thing with the wide receivers. We're going to rank them, put them into tiers. But when we're looking at market sentiment at the wide receiver position, not near as high as the running back position going into the 2025 rookie draft class. That is something to pay attention to. That is something to know right now. If you're funneling your picks with trades, that is something to pay attention to. And you might catch some values there at the wide receiver position. Just look at the draft capital, see what's happening with that. But there's also some guys that can sneak up on you in fantasy football because the wide receiver position is very diluted. And it's also vastly talented from top to bottom. And we're seeing this at the high school level. And who knows about the high school level? I do, because we cover just about every prospect coming from the high school level, going over their tape. That's why we really do that, and a lot of people like that as well. That being said, the wide receiver position is very diluted, and that's hyper-focused with a lot of talent. So there's going to be surprise prospects in every draft class. That's just going to surprise you. 3rd rounders, 4th rounders, 5th rounders, like Jalen McMillan's that just come out and be productive, that come out of nowhere, that just jump up in value after the NFL draft, that comes out of training camp. You're just going to get your Puka Nakuas in the later rounds. That is going to happen. Pay attention to the wide receiver position this year too, because you're going to catch some talent that a lot of people are going to sleep on because they're going to look at the wide receiver group and think that it's light, which it is lighter compared to other years. But what I'm saying here is what we're seeing through the high school recruiting ranks is guys are more good to go at the wide receiver spot than anticipated. The running back class, though, vastly deep. Excited about that. Who do you want to see next? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.